Blessed is the man that walketh not into the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the I am, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Psalms chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. And this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but shall meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then shalt thou have good success. Joshua chapter 1 and verse 8. All praises to the Most High. Yes, yes, yes. We're in the law. Yes, and we're coming from the book of Leviticus chapter 19. And we're going to start with verse 20, the verse as you prepare. Leviticus chapter 19 and starting with verse 20. Yes. We thank God for you, and we know that his commandments, statutes, and ordinances are where we should be. The earth and different governments have adopted these laws, but they do not keep them as they should be kept. And if it was kept in the whole earth, there should be one law for one people. That's one law. Even for anyone, even for Israel, one law. And even to the stranger that comes into the land of Israel, what he was saying, one law. But now you're not in the land. The land of Israel is captive. It's the part of Jerusalem, and Judah is desolate. And now we have nowhere to go. Our government, we say, is in heaven. The government, you are the government. The people are the government. Because your ancestors have said, all that the I am said, that will we do. So therefore, you have consented unto what the I am had said. Therefore, the government that he presented before your ancestors, they have accepted. And he says, now you have made an agreement. If you do not keep this agreement. See, this is where many people are confused. This is going to pass down to every generation. As long as we keep doing those things that are contrary against his law, statutes, commandments, and ordinances, we will experience Deuteronomy chapter 28. All the way through the book of Judges, the book of Kings, and all the way down into captivity and captivity after captivity. To this day, we suffer. Yes, we do. We do suffer. Not because of anyone's sin, but because of our own. We have accepted the way of the heathen. We accepted his hairstyle. We accepted his dress. We accepted his haircuts. We accepted his way we put on makeup and all these other things. I was hearing the other day about listening to some Hebrew Israelites talking about eyelashes. What that got to do with the law? I'm not trying to justify it, but the fact is that eyelashes. Maybe the woman don't like how she look for some reason, I don't know. They wear eyelashes, they wear lipsticks. Women accessorize, period. And they done concocted something, women should not wear eyelashes. Well, God said, God has a way. We're going to get across those things as we get to them. But God has a way of telling us that we should be modest. That we should be like Proverbs chapter 31. As far as the women, I'm not a woman, no. Don't get me wrong. But either way, we should be like the Bible has described us. The men should be like Proverbs have telling them. Watch out for the married woman who is promiscuous in her ways, that will try to lure you, the young man, especially if you got some looks about you. Yes, they will try to lure you. Please. Why did they marry the husband that they married? We don't know. Maybe it was because they were betrothed by their fathers, or maybe it's because they saw some financial That's your husband. I don't care how you married him or what attracted you to him. That is your husband. Leave them other men alone, young and older. If you've gotten married, you have no business with no other man. And man, you have no business with another man's wife. But nevertheless, let us get into this. Chapter 20. And whosoever lieth carnally with a woman that is a bondmaid, mind you, betrothed to an husband, and not at all redeemed, nor freedom given her. Now you say, why is she gonna be scrubbed? He did not rape her. The scenario, the narrative is he did not rape her. Some people would add more and take away some out of this holy text, this law. She was a bondmaid. She was betrothed to be married. And you go back to the law where it says if a man was, if he had a wife, he might have betrothed a wife that was a bondman, a bondwoman, and he's a bondman. But the fact is that she was scheduled to be the other man's wife, regardless of whether they were free or not free. He says, now this is what's going to happen. She consented. Now this is the whole thing. He did not grape her. He did not do that. They consented, or she some kind of way was in fear because he, was her boss, or should I say, quid pro quo can be the other thing you can call it, a form of quid pro quo. You do this for me, I'll do this for you. And so she consented. Either way, he said, and not at all redeemed nor freedom given her. In other words, he says, now she shall be scourged because she's not free. And they shall not be put to death, as with the law says they both shall be put to death because he laid with another man's wife. And now if she was the wife of a bondman and he laid with her, then that's another story. This law applies. She shall be scourged and not be put to death, but because she was not free. She steal his money. You don't lay with your money. You don't lay with your workers. You don't lay with those who you employ in this quid pro quo thing. Regardless, they are servants. They really are not free. A servant is not free. I mean, even you, when you serve someone to do services for them, as far as, fixing a house, and she wants to lay with you, for a compensation for what you're doing for her. Excuse me. And that is sin. That is sin. That's another man's wife. That's a whole different story. But she was not free. She was either indentured servant or a servant that was a bond servant. Normally in Israel, the bond servants were those that were not of the nation. Just as David had laid with one who served his army and was faithful not only to God but to his king and master. But yet he decided he wanted to lay with his wife and kill him. See, these things happen even in this day and time. They still happen. Even the woman wants to. There was a news article that came out of Detroit after I think it was a Gulf War, or either this last war we just had, or conflict, or whatever you want to call it, where the woman and her boyfriend had conspired. Now, when her husband came back, they both unalived him. But it didn't go nowhere. They was trying to get that little $50,000 or $40,000, which really would go nowhere. You could make that in a year, either way. It wouldn't last you no time. That was really dumb. Now, he says, now, after they have laid together and been found to be, they shall not be put to death in verse 20. But she was not free. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto the I am. You've trespassed against the I am. unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, even a ram for a trespass offering. Because you had control over that, man. Although she consented, you had control over that. The man gives, the woman takes, and gives back. He had control over that. And the priest shall make an atonement for him with the ram of the trespass offering before the I am for his sin which he has done, and the sin which he has done shall be forgiven him. This was the way of Israel. Now, he was talking about them coming into the land. Now, we're going to skip a little bit. Now, he tells us now in verse 26. He says, Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 26, ye shall not eat anything with blood. In other words, you got liver, that's blood. Livers are mostly blood. The heart is full of blood. Why do you think it's the color it is? When you eat the heart of animals and all these things, it's blood. Now, that's between you and God, but as far as I'm concerned, it's blood. That's why it's red or reddish. It filters the blood. It passes blood. The blood remains in it. It's just red because of blood. Neither shall ye use enchantments nor observe times. Now, this was the way of pagans. They were what's called astrology. Oh, I'm an Aries, I'm a Libra. Regardless of how you think it's true and how it coincidentally matches your lifestyle or whatever, God said to the Israelite, you shall not do it. The world and those of you who do not count yourself with God would want to make your part with those that in the place of torment that Enoch described, then you go ahead right ahead on. We cannot say yay nor nay to that one because you have made your choice. Now, he said, ye shall not eat anything with the blood. Eat my blood for it. No. Not even representative of blood. You don't have no, oh my gosh. That was into the New Testament, your Easter stuff. But either way, neither shall ye use enchantment nor observe times. In other words, astrology. Astronomy is different from astrology. Astronomy tells direction. The navigators use it on land and on sea. Okay, and also you can tell a lot of things about the weather through astronomy. It is an investigation of the stars and moons, so to speak. Now, let's go to 27. Ye shall not round the corners of your head, nor mar the corners of thy beard. What is a corner? He's talking about round in here. He's talking about this. Mar the corners of your head. See, I didn't know this either. Or I didn't understand it till I really investigated it. A bowl cut. Ye shall not round the high and tight. These are pagans type haircuts. They did this in religious ritual. You can go with the Egyptians and all these other things. They did these things. And even the Canaanites, they did these things. He wanted you to make a difference with what is clean and unclean. God give you your hair for natural things. I can say, well, you can shape it up or whatever you want to do with that, but he says you shall not mar it. Mar it. Mar means to obscure. In other words, don't cut it. The heathens did that stuff. The Egyptians, they did not wear beards. They shaved their face as best they could. This is why the mummies are so bald-faced. Now, he said, ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am that I am. Now, the fact is that marring the corners of your head, in other words, a bowl cut, high and tights, high fades, or whatever you want to call it, God wants you to have hair, man. He really wants you to have hair. He wants us to have hair. Yes, especially the children of Israel. That we might set a difference between the world and us. Whether you got locks or whatever, it's a difference. It doesn't matter. You got one country there that's against even wearing dreads. What is wrong with this world today? But we have to make a difference between clean and unclean. Yes, we do. And by not rounding the corners of our heads, we make that difference. By not marring the corners of our beard, in other words, the fade, I believe the fade like this, like they wear your military and your different, they call it professional. What is professional? It's a matter of perception, period. You can be a professional and have a long beard. You can be a professional and have dreads. You can have locks or whatever. You can have a big afro. But you have to see how the Satans come against our hairstyles. These things are natural. They are not something that we just concocted out of the... And when they don't wash their hair, they keep going, they get matted dreadlock hair like you do. It's even worse. It generates lice. That's why a lot of the Caucasian races have to wash their hair or cut their hair continually to keep lice out. And women have to wash their hair a lot and treat it. Now, he says, thou shalt not make any cutting for the dead, nor print any cutting for the dead. He tells you the dead, nor print any marks upon you. Print, tattoos. Print, erase marks that you do in prison. And those of you that might hear me in prison, take an eraser and make little signs on you and stuff like that. He said not print. I don't know where that one female preacher come out and says that she only went to that one scripture, but the law says that himself. The prophet did not make this up. God, this is a commandment upon you. Don't print any marks upon you. Israel was doing it. I believe that was Jeremiah. They were doing this along with the heathen, printing marks upon them, making cuttings in their flesh for the dead. Yes. And even when you do the printing on your thing, don't they use a needle that cuts into your flesh? They use a needle that cuts into your flesh to print the marks. Come on here. We know it's going to be. You have just transgressed the law. You have just transgressed the law. Yes, you have. With these tattoos and stuff, thinking that you get by with God. You have just, you messed yourself up. I'll put it that way. Because what? One thing, you wasn't taught by your parents or by anybody that is knowledgeable of the law. And Christianity is supposed to be that way. Islam's supposed to be that way. But why do you have these marks and cuttings upon your body? He said, I am that I am. Number 29, verse 29, Leviticus 19:20. Do not prostitute thy daughter, nor cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall in whoredom and the land become full of wickedness. In other words, you sell your daughter for a man to have his pleasures with once she reached the age of her flower, to have his pleasures with in order to have money. I was noticing one thing about the little girl that I remember the little white girl, she was up there and they dressed her up like a full-grown woman, and she was on, they had promoted her and she was on stage and everything. Everybody forgot that. I don't think they found her to this day. Some pervert that got her. I mean, she looked, if you didn't know that she had a tiny body like a little, if they just showed the face, you would think that was a woman. Now you got this little girl, and now she's up there doing the boots on the ground, and now she's throwing her little hips here and there like a grown woman. And do you not know? These men, we can sometimes desire someone without looking like we desiring them. Same thing with women. You don't know. You can go along with the whole shenanigans, but inside of your heart, these things rise up and your demons are talking. This is why we must be full of the law, commandments, statutes of the Most High. be full of these things, that we might dismiss those things, that these Satans who have sway over the thoughts of men's heart, we can dismiss them. In other words, God said. And I'm not going to do it. Why? Because God said it and that settles it, and I'm not going to do it. Period. I'm not even going to think it. Dismiss that thought. Take that thought somewhere else. And he sure will. He'll take it to another person that's weaker. Or they sure will. Now he says, lest the land become full of, watch yourself with your daughters and with your sons, how you parade them around other adults. You don't know their intentions. And ye shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am that I am. Because Israel did not keep God's Sabbaths. In other words, you had the Sabbath, especially the Passover. You had a Sabbath that whole week. You had Sabbaths there, but they did not keep them. Neither did they reverence the sanctuary. So God he just got rid of it all. He allowed the heathen to come in to get it. Else he would have just had them subdued. 31. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, soothsayers, mediums. In other words, you're trying to find out the future. The Bible, the law already tells you your future in Deuteronomy chapter 28. If you do not obey, or if you do not do those things which your ancestors agreed to. Israel is the government that God wants to establish on earth. I mean, the children of Jacob. The real children of Jacob. We're not talking about those that are white. We're talking about the real children of Jacob. I don't want to put a color to it because many of them are light, they're dark, but either way they're a tone of brown. Yes, either mixed. Now, he said, neither seek after wizards, your Harry Potters, to do me a favor. Put a curse on this man. There are wizards. There are true wizards. There are those who have familiar spirits. Not only they're abundant in the United States as well as abroad. It's just not subject to Africa. It's not subject to Haiti. It's all in the EU. It's all in the US. It's all in South America. Wizards and those who have familiar spirits. Demon possession is the same thing. That's the real goal of it, really. He says, thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man and fear thy God. I am the I am. The law. When an elder walks into your presence, you stand up. Is what God is saying. If he's a foolish elder, that's not your judgment to tell. That's God's. You don't have to do what he says. He just says honor him because God had blessed him in order to get to that hoary head, to that white hair. In other words, you honor the face of the old man. You do not curse the old man. Just like you honor your mother and father. The same thing he would say with the old man. Because that is wisdom. Whether it doesn't display it at the time or say the things that you think it should say, still there's wisdom there. Wouldn't have lived as long as he has. This is a commandment. He said, and if a stranger sojourn with you in your land, ye shall not trouble him. White, black, Asian, whatever. But if he troubles you, then you have to do something. See, this is where the foolishness of many, those of you that are in your land, and you're allowing strangers to come and trouble you because of your foolishness. Your law, statutes, and your constitution, should I say, should handle that. And your law enforcement should handle that. There should not be any stranger coming here and trouble the inhabitants or the aboriginal of any land. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you. In other words, he's going to be circumcised and all those things. And thou shalt love him as thyself, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. See, this is what he means, love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, he's talking about being in your land, Jacob. This is the whole thing. Israel, what God, all this whole law refers to the government of the Most High on earth. Anybody can come and dwell amongst the children of Israel, unless you are trying to sway the children of Israel away from the laws, commandments, statutes, and ordinances of the Most High. This is what is being said. He said, I am that I am your God. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, weight, or in measure. In other words, you're not gonna, if something is, if you got to weigh, in that time you had to weigh out. Let's say this costs 20 pieces of silver. So the weight of 20 pieces of silver, or one piece of silver, should have the weight, you should have the weight thereof, and it should be standard in all the land. This is established by the priest or the king. He said that you shall do no judgment. In other words, if something is worth a certain price in your land that you live, but you want to charge way above that price, you've done this same thing. If this only costs $20 a foot, but you're saying, well, I'm going to charge him for 2 feet. You still have done this same, you have transgressed this same law. Just balances in 36 and just weights. Just ephah and a just hin. Ye shall have, I am that I am your God, which brought you out of the land. In other words, don't deceive your brothers, what he's saying. Some of the businesses that we have, we try to deceive our brothers and overcharge them for things that are not normally the price of the things that then we don't give them the service that we want to give them. Because we figure they need us, they like this soul food. And then your stuff is just trash. Nobody wants to be around you. He says, just balances and just weights. He brought them out of the land of Egypt. This is where we're coming from. We're going by these laws until the Most High comes back. I ain't not talking about no Jesus. He didn't talk about no Jesus. Until the Most High comes back, we must do those things even after the forefathers. Yes, we do. Therefore ye shall observe all my statutes and all my judgments and do them. I am that I am. Yes. Now, he talks about pagan practices in chapter 20. We're going to do this and we're going to end it. He says, and again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel or of the strangers that sojourn in the Israel. It's the same thing with the strangers. That giveth any of his seed unto Moloch, he shall surely be put to death. And the people of the land shall stone him with stones. In other words, here he is running through the fire, and now he's telling his children to go through the fire. Both of them. This is paganism. You have to identify paganism in all its ways. It is subtle. It is one thing that puts God down. You can tell paganism even on social media when they start to come and combat God. When they say he's not this and he's not that. These people are evil. They have things that are going on in their hearts by the Satans or the devils or whatever you want to call them. Yes, it's not just one, it's many. There's no one hierarchy that knows everything. No. Now, he said, surely be put to death. And in other words, you can say, well, I'm going to separate you from our company. This guy does this thing. Get away from him. This is why you see in the 400 years, should I call it, or the time of the Greek Inquisition, that what had happened was many of the Israelites, they would separate themselves from the indigenous or those who would call themselves indigenous of that land because of their paganism. This evil is stronger than your righteousness because of your flesh. And you have to keep the flesh subdued. You have to keep this flesh. It's not just by fasting. It's the fact that says, no, I will not do it. I don't care how much I think I'm curious and everything else. No. Because God has given you examples of what had happened throughout his word. This is why the word of God must be read. This is why the laws must be pushed forth to all congregations of Israel, or should I say the children of Jacob. And he goes on to say that he will, because they did this in the sanctuary and all those things. You can read that on your time. But anyway, if we obey these things and do that which is written, that God hath commanded us and our ancestors agreed, then we will have peace.